Mac Games in the building, and what's going on YouTube? Today we got a PC review. Yeah, for my new PC that I just got. The specs will be in the description about what PC it is. Also the link of where I got it. But when I posted the video, it's actually doing numbers. I appreciate all the love. But when I posted the video, a lot of people wanted me to do a review and basically show how it played in certain games. So as you can see right now, this is how it's playing in GTA, and I'm playing all these games online because, I mean, it's real easy for a game to play very well offline. So I decided to play all the games online, and I think at this point I was going through my phone trying to see what were the best features, how to put what, and yeah, basically I think at this point I'm putting everything on the highest settings to see how it runs at the highest settings, which you'll see later on in the video. It causes me to have stuttering issues, and yeah, it just wasn't very stable at the highest settings. But I mean, you can still make this game look really good and run at over, I think, about 80-90 frames. And then when I turned off recording, which recording definitely put a toll on my frames per second, when you're talking about turning off the recording, you adding 10 frames to Grand Theft Auto. So yeah, I'm finna just let you guys watch this and yeah, just see how it goes from here. I'm gonna do a bunch of stuff in the video, and yeah, and I'll chime in whenever I need to. Wasted. Now we move on to Fortnite, and these are the settings that I had the game on for Fortnite. I think the very first one, like as you'll see, my very first one, everything's high. I want to see how it plays with everything set at a very high level. So I went into be a battle lab, but battle lab, also just chose to join people, so they placed me into an actual lab that already had people in it. And with FORTNITE, the discrepancy with me recording and not recording is plus 40 frames. So as you'll see in the video, I stay at basically between 140 to 160 frames as I played. And that was just on settings that were on high, not very high, like almost, I'm getting tongue tied, but the almost highest settings you'll see. And yeah, I didn't have audio on this. I apologize deeply. But as you'll see, I land, and the data, the frames show right next to the map. Top right, you see the frames up and down, see the frames. Game looks really beautiful. This is at the highest settings. Now, with any game, you trying to get the highest settings, you're going to suffer frames per second wise, but your game is going to look beautiful. No stutters or nothing. I couldn't even run these settings on my other PC, which had the GTX 1660 Ti. I couldn't run these settings at all. And it had an i5, I think 9700. Don't quote me on that. It could have been a 1000F. But yeah, I'm like whispering to myself. But yeah, as you'll see, look at the frames. And this is high settings. Now, when I take them down to the regular settings, you'll see. So let's get into that. So I'm coming back at this point. Now I'm changing the settings to what I typically play on. I keep my quality at pretty high, but everything else, I just took it down. Now look at my frames. And then I go into the green. This is where you're going to get the best frames, when you're just looking at the grass and stuff like that. But as you see, those frames are really high. And like I said, recording off, I'm getting 200 frames easy every single time, everywhere on the map. It's just, I guess OBS just uses so much power at the same time. Well, I mean, you got to think about it. You got OBS running, recording, and at the same time, I'm also playing FORTNITE. So, yeah. So that was FORTNITE. On to the next one. Boom. So as you can see, the next one is Apex Legends. And with Apex, I basically got my max. I got my max hertz for my monitor, the 165s. After I uncapped the FPS for Apex, I realized none of their graphics settings matter. As long as you have a really good graphics card, you're good. So I uncapped it, and the game ran smooth at very high settings, low settings. It didn't matter. Like, the game ran exactly the same every time. So it's really no reason to cheat yourself with the quality of how the game looks. With Apex, you might as well just play the game at whatever settings you want, because it's not going to affect your frames at any point. And none of these games really ran hot or anything. If you see the temperature pretty high, it's because I had something behind my computer covering my ventilation in the back, so the computer got a little hot, and I was confused because I didn't know what was going on. But then I looked at all the vent arrows, and I was like, oh, okay. So this is covering that vent hole. Yeah. And once again, I apologize. I didn't have any audio in this. I was just trying to get all these videos recorded for you guys so I can get this review of this computer out, because I mean, when I put the unboxing up, I didn't want to put a review out after only having it for a day, because I mean, what's a day? And as you can see, I play these games for a while to see if it's any hiccups, or do the frames just drastically drop, or do I have a performance issue at any point while playing the game. And Apex played the smooth. It's up there with FORTNITE. Like, man, Apex played smooth as hell on PC. And it's so much more responsive when you talking about 165 frames. And I also suck at Apex, so yeah, don't quote me on that. Now we're gonna get into the one everybody want to know, Warzone. Boom. So we start up Warzone, and top right, as you can see, the frames per game. And now go through the settings so you guys can look at all the settings that I'm running. I'm basically running it. This is basically, I'm running a game not that high, like kind of medium, nothing too crazy. But I also put my dynamic resolution. Oh, I had it off in this one. I tried DLSS. DLSS sucks. It doesn't really help you, and if it is helping you, it is making your game look absolutely atrocious. So I do not recommend using DLSS at all. Boom. So here we go. We're getting into the pregame lobby. And I think I was cranking out about between 100 and 120 frames per second. But mind you, I'm also playing at 120 field of view. Granted, that doesn't really affect my system because I like my game to look good. So I'm not finna make my game play at completely low settings just for a couple extra frames. The 120 field of view is really the advantage that I was looking for, and why I even chose to get a PC. Is little things like that that make a huge advantage. Like, it's a huge advantage when you're talking about cross-play games and somebody being able to see more things on one system than the other. Like we had a huge disadvantage on console when you're talking about PC players having 120 field of view. It just makes the game move faster, well, feel faster. And if you're somebody like me, I like when games feel fast, especially battle royale games and shooters, like when they feel faster, because I like fast-paced games. So if somebody's slowing me down, I don't really like that. So when I got into this, granted, it took me a little minute to get used to it. Not even that long the whole time. It didn't take me that long to get used to it, but we got used to it, and yeah, I love this game on PC. It's like a brand new game on PC. So with Warzone is going to use a lot of your GPU regardless. It doesn't matter what GPU you got. It's going to use a lot of it regardless. So you talking about probably 90% of your GPU being used by Warzone. It's ridiculous. Now, with Warzone, the discrepancy with the frames and recording. 10 to 20 frames you gained when I'm not recording as opposed to when I am recording. So as you see, my settings are moderately high, a little higher than I would normally be when I'm playing the game. And I was also recording. I was just doing things to get into action and see how the frames would be affected by different actions that I did in the game. So as you'll see, dropping, boom. And the good thing is we're basically over 100 most of the time. We're basically over 100, so yeah. You definitely gonna feel the difference as opposed to if you was on console. You definitely gonna feel the difference. Okay, so right here is when I decided to test the DLSS. Basically, I got into a spot where I was getting, you know, solid amount of frames. 100 frames was about the average. Now, you see that? Boom, 97. Put it on balanced. Lost about a frame or two. Put it on performance.
Enemy UAV overhead.
Now performance stayed about the same as balanced. It wasn't really a big difference in it between performance and balance. Yeah, for some reason I thought, yeah, the AUG sucks now. No reason to be shooting it. But same thing. Talking about 98. Boom. Okay. Now, ultimate performance. Granted, ultimate performance boosted it a little bit, but the game looked disgusting. Like, I was just walking around looking at things. I wanted to see how things looked. Looked gross. I didn't like look at the trees. I just didn't like the way it looked on performance. Oh no, I think I'm gonna get a kill. Ooh. Hey, you know the vibes. He finna smoke me. Watch this. But like I said, I'm recording, so you basically have to add 10 to 20 frames. Yeah, got smoked. That right there was a sad sight to see. But let me see my gulag. He wasn't even that good. Now, here's my gulag frame. You're gonna get the highest frames you possibly can get in the gulag. Look at that.
The fight's on.
I don't know if you notice how different that looked.
Get ready to
it
fight.
was
You're
nothing too
next.
crazy. So I decided to just turn it off. So my game looks better with it off, and it's not that big of a frame difference. I'm still playing smoothly. It's still smoothly. It's still very responsive. So yeah. I'm still working out what settings I should use, because the settings people suggest, sometimes I don't like them, and yeah, At this point, I just want my game to look
You're up,
good while I
soldier.
play it.
Now
That's
go
about
sort
it.
this
I just want my
fucker
game to
out.
look good while I play it. As long as my game could look good, I'm perfectly fine. I don't need it to look terrible. That was gross. That was disgusting.
Stand by for redeployment.
Now I went and changed the settings again, but this time I basically put everything up. Yeah. Did I? Oh my God, come on. Like I said, I was still fiddling with a lot of settings, trying to figure out what works, what don't. And at this point, I just said skip it. Everything's up high. Just see how everything works high. But my streaming, okay, there we go. Yes, everything's up high. And you noticed in the last game we played, most things were on low. I got ray tracing on now too. And yeah. Now everything's up high. My average for the last game, I want to say, was about 90 to 100 frames. But if you take on what it was because I was recording, then you're talking about 100 to 110, 115 frames. And that's with everything, you know, a solid point with settings. Now we dropping into this match. The frames. This is max settings right now. Max settings.
Your primary objective is to kill
I'd
them all.
say, I mean, this is console frames. It's not really responsive. I didn't like, you know, it don't feel as snappy as everything else, but the game looks amazing. We can't argue that the game looks amazing. I'm getting anywhere from, let's say, 65 to 90 frames. But this is max settings here. Nobody runs max settings. Like, it's really no reason to, especially when you don't see that big of a difference in streaming quality when you talk from high to just medium. It's not that big a difference. But even at some points, I was getting 100 on max settings. Come on, move around. Get 'em. Move around. Yeah. Move around. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just gonna talk through it, because at certain points in the video, I was just changing things up. No NVIDIA filters on either. Now I started to change things. Put that texture resolution back down to normal. Let it keep up. As you can see, the frames bumped up. The frames bumped with that texture resolution. The frames bumped up about 10 frames. You're talking about at least 10 frames. And it's not that big a difference right now. And I still have ray tracing on. So, I mean, honestly, I just might run this game at max settings. Because, yeah, inside of a building, but you really see how good it is outside. If it's really worth it outside. Because inside of buildings, you always gonna get good frames inside of a building, because it's not much to compute. But now we outside, you see all the trees. Looking at all of that. I mean, talking about everything max except texture quality stream, man. Look, might be worth it, I'm telling you. Yeah, he opted out on straight business, finna turn me into a pack. You already know who they smoke. Me. I sold. That was a great stun. That was a great stun. Great. Amazing. Folks ain't even gotta grab me like that.
If you survive,
Now,
you earn your
gulag.
freedom.
Honestly, it looks like the same amount of frames I was getting when I had ray tracing off and everything else. But honestly, I might play with ray tracing on. It makes the game look way better. And I'm not really even suffering. with frames, really? Because, mind you, the game still felt really good. Granted, earlier I said it wasn't as responsive, but it was still very responsive. Now I just went over to this spot so I can get a grasp of looking at the entire map with my settings as is. 100 frames. Now, what are we changing? DLSS on quality. Let's see if that changes 100 frames. Look at that. A little tweaky at first. A little tweaky at first. Had to adjust. Quality. Maybe added a few extra frames, but nothing too crazy with quality. Now balanced. Mind you, the regular is 99, 100. Balanced. Balance really didn't do anything either. Performance now. Performance kept me over 100. I'll give it that. Performance kept me over 100. Now ultimate performance. Game looks gross. It looks absolutely gross. Look at the trees. Look at the ground. It looks disgusting. It actually looked like I lost frames with ultimate performance. That's crazy. That's crazy. Let's just disable it and go back to what it, yeah. Now, bumping things back down to a moderate, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, most people don't use ray tracing. I mean, turning it off didn't really have that big of an effect. Mind you, 10 to 20 frames, by what you're looking at, 10 to 20 frames I added by default because while I was recording, it just affected my frames in every game except Apex. It affected my frames in every game. Now I'm changing the field of view to 90 to see if that'll change my frames per second. Definitely does. Field of view definitely affects the frames. So if a person gets on here and doesn't change their field of view and give you, you know, frames and everything else for a game, they're doing it at 90 frames. If they don't go to 120, which most people play above 90, most people playing between the 110 and 120 range, then they're not giving you, you know, the frames that you're going to see when you play. Because I was very confused. I watched the person review this computer and they had different things than me. And I'm like, this is kind of new. Like, I don't have that much on here. So that's really what it was. It was the field of view. The field of view wasn't what I run. The more field of view you have, I mean, it makes sense that you're going to have less frames because your computer has to, you know, recognize more things in that field of view. But it's been your boy, Matt Game 63. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know if there's any other things you guys want me to do on this computer to give you an idea of whether you should get it or not. If you're asking me, compared to my other computer, yes, it's definitely worth the upgrade. It's about twice the price, but definitely worth the upgrade. It's twice as better if you ask me. So, yes, sir. We out. Peace.